In this edition of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Adam Pankratz, a lecturer at the University of BC's Sauder School of Business. Adam, welcome.
Nice to be here, Stu. Thanks for having me.
So how do you characterize what your job is? And maybe I just got to add one more bit to, you're a lecturer, but you're also a commentator. Like we see you in the paper and so on. But let's start with your day-to-day job at Sauder School of Business. What exactly is it that you do?
Well, my official title is I'm a lecturer, but I'm a teacher. I teach business strategy and the interactions between government and business, and really love what I do. I have day-to-day interactions with students. I teach all levels from the undergraduate through to the master's MBA programs. But I'm a teacher at the base. That's what I do.
So what does a day look like for you then? You wake up in the morning, are you checking papers, are you planning your material for that day, or like how does a day unfold?
I'm definitely always looking at current events and reading the newspaper and bringing that either into class or you mentioned commenting on it in the media from time to time. But then it's about making the class as interesting a place as possible, and I'm fortunate that the courses that I teach afford me that, whether it's business strategy, what are businesses currently doing, what are the new business problems that are affecting the corporate world and the economy, or what has the government done that might have an effect on your business, and what do students need to understand about how they might react or think about that in their future careers.
So do you start working from home, or are you in the office at a particular time?
It varies. There are days where I have 6 or so hours of course, in which case I'm in the lecture studio or in the classroom for a long time, with some other time at my office, and other times I can do more things in my home office or just at the university office. It varies, and my teaching schedule changes from semester to semester, so it's always hard to predict it exactly. I work on 4-month cycles, more or less.
Wow. And so how do you go about preparing what it is that you need to be imparting in the lecture hall on any particular day? Like, do you need to set aside time to do that as you prep, or have you done it like so much that really you're just you've got it down and you know what works?
A little bit of both, I'd say. I'd say there's certainly core material that I know what's coming, right? The syllabus is laid out and the course is laid out in a way that we're going to talk about these ideas and these concepts that they're core to understanding business strategy, for example. But then, business is an evolving beast, and the challenges of today are different than the challenges of 10 years ago, and they're different. They will be different in 5 or 10 years from now, or even a year from now. So I do my best to look at, okay, what is the current problem, and how can we adapt this theory that maybe is sitting there in a textbook and is not that interesting on its own, but if you can make it real and bring it back to something the students are aware of, or you see happening in their face every day, that makes it a much more effective learning experience in my view, and in my experience as well.
And how much time do you devote to your writing?
Well, it depends which topics come up. Sometimes I'm provided, the economy or the government provides with more material than others. I would say to write a piece, takes a good portion of a day to do it right. I always go through multiple versions of it before I send it off to the editor for publication. So I'd say it's something that I try to write. It was at one time a month. Now it's sort of become more 2 times a month. So it's a couple days a month that I'm thinking about it all the time, but then actually sitting down and writing it probably takes a couple days when I'm able to.
So let's go back to your humble beginnings. You graduate from secondary school. What did you decide to do with your life?
Well, I think that's maybe in this segment, maybe where I have a message that's valuable, I hope, to a lot of people, because um, when I graduated from high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. When I graduated from Simon Fraser with an undergraduate degree in linguistics, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to continue studying languages, so I went and did a master's degree in Europe, in Germany, in foreign language linguistics. And after that, I thought I'd find a job of some kind. And I worked in the wine industry when I lived in Europe. I worked in the hotel industry at a hotel in Germany as well. And then I came back to Canada. I worked briefly in the Olympics in international media relations, basically, because I spoke a few languages, so that was valuable in Vancouver. And then, to be perfectly honest, I had a difficult time finding a job because my skills were not well matched to the Vancouver market. And nobody really seemed to care about what I had to offer, which at that time principally was, I spoke 4 languages and had international experience, wine industry, hotels, but that was not, for whatever reason, I had a hard time finding a job. And that's when I decided that, okay, I need more formal business training. That's when I went and did my MBA at Sauder. And after that, I worked in commercial banking for a time, and then in 2015 was involved in the federal election campaign with the Liberals and was a candidate there. But I think my experience is rather bizarre, to be perfectly honest, and all over the place. And I had a very difficult time finding something that A, I was good at, B, I enjoyed doing, and where I was using the skills that I'd acquired. So my main thing I would say to anyone out there who's wondering, like, well, how did I get to where I am today? Is like, I don't really know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't planned. There wasn't a plan. I muddled through. I was underemployed in many different things. I didn't like what I did for a number of years. But I was fortunate to meet enough people and keep putting myself out there in a way that got me to a position where I'm very happy with what I do and enjoy what I do, and hopefully has a good impact on the world.
So, in amongst all of that, you said, "Oh yeah," and in 2015, I decided to run for the Liberals. You weren't successful, but what made you say, "No, I'm going to put my name forward so that I can be in service to the people of this constituency"?
Well, at the time, what had happened was I was in Germany, and this was well before the election, and I was watching the news with friends, and they turned to me and I said, "Adam, what's going on in Canada?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" They said, "Well, we don't really understand. Like, Canada, you just pulled out of Kyoto. You don't seem to care about international commitments. You're a lot more aggressive or disinterested with your international partners than you used to be." And it's just odd because that's not been the Canada we've been accustomed to dealing with, at least when we see them in Germany. And I remember thinking, in all the travels that I've ever had, that was the first time that being a Canadian was sort of a liability. Mm. And I heard that and I thought, that just cannot be what I hear happening to my country. And I would hear that and just leave that for someone else to deal with, leave that for future generations. No, if that is the perception that is being created about our country on the international stage for future generations, I have to do something to change that. And I was presented with an opportunity where the Liberals were not exactly in favor following the 2011 election. So there was every reason that people who were interested in getting involved, which I had been, like through high school and so on, if they wanted to be involved, they definitely wanted people who still believed in the message of what the Liberal Party had to offer Canada. And that's where I started, and started talking to lots of different people about how to make this happen. And was fortunate to be able to put a team together, win the nomination, and then run in the Burnaby South riding.
How important was that experience, though, for you as you then moved into the next phase of your career development?
I think it was invaluable in a number of different ways. First off, if you're building a campaign like that, we started more than 2 years before the federal election. You're building a business, right? You're building a team. You have to fundraise. You have to find a place. You have to find an office. You have to get your message out to the local community. You have to learn how to market yourself. You have to do all the aspects that I teach now. You have to know how to do that, right? And you have to put it together. And I would also say that politics, your job is to meet people. That is literally your job. And I would say to anybody who's looking at how do I get to where I want to be, my advice that I always give to everyone is go meet 30 people. That was advice that was given to me, and I think go meet 30 people and talk to them. Just ask them what did they do and how did they get to where they are, and learn about their journey and their path. And when you do that, worst case scenario, you're going to have met 30 really interesting people. But probably you're going to start finding out that those people, like if you're looking for a job, probably you're going to find out that those people are looking to hire smart, motivated people who are out there creating networks and building networks. And really, for 2 years, that was all that I did, because that was the only thing that mattered, is how do I meet people in the community, meet people all around the Lower Mainland, and start talking to them. And those networks eventually start to cross, and you start to know people, know someone who knows someone, and from that you can hopefully find something that you really like to do. And and I found it at Sauder, but I think you could do that for any industry you wanted to be involved in.
I thought that was interesting. You said worst case scenario, well, you met 30 interesting people. The best case scenario is that the dynamic interaction between you and all those people leads to so many other potential opportunities. I think you're right. You have to put yourself out there and be open to experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it was a lady who said that to me afterwards, or said it specifically in those terms, was a lady by the name of Maura Quayle, who was, you may know her.
Yeah.
She was one of my profs actually during the MBA program. And yeah, she said that to me. Politics afforded me the opportunity to meet hundreds of people. But businesses are networks of people at the end of the day. And I think Vancouver is a big market in some senses, but in other senses, it's a very, very small city still. And if you meet lots of people and just are interested in what they do, people respond to that, and they're out there. People are willing to help you if you go out and meet them and are interested in what they do. And I think people forget that too often, that the world can be a nasty place, but a lot of times in business and in your career, if you go out and are interested in others and ask them about themselves and ask them to help you, they will. And I think that's something that I was fortunate to realize and see by meeting so many interesting people from so many different backgrounds in all of the different careers that I've had, and all the different experiences that both politics and banking and all these different areas have afforded me.
Well, thanks for demonstrating once again that when people wind up in interesting careers that matter, there is no straight line from where you started to where you wound up.
It's definitely not a straight line with me, but I think that made it all the more interesting, and I wouldn't change any of the experiences I had for a linear path. It's a lot more interesting to wander through the forest for a little while and see what's out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.